Welcome to today's subject, which is understanding stress, the dark side of being a giver. Um, this is a masterclass, really, for anyone working in public service, but also in social care, in the charity sector, or if you're just one of life's givers. So it may be someone that just can't say no to things, keeps giving. So, stress, trauma. Most individuals experience between 3 and 4 potentially traumatic events in their lifetime, and 74% of adults in the UK felt overwhelmed or unable to cope due to stress at some point in the past year. So we're a stressed out nation. It's thought that over 90% of physical illness is related to stress, so it's really wise to respond to it. In the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to cover the science of stress first. Then I'm going to look at why life's givers are particularly vulnerable to it, and then offer some stress management and resilience building advice. Stress is a natural biological response to perceived threats or demands. While it can be a powerful motivator in short bursts, chronic or unmanaged stress has profound effects on the brain, nervous system, and the body, ultimately influencing our well-being, our decision-making, and our productivity. At its core, stress activates, you ready for it, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, commonly known as the HPA. So when a stressful situation arises, the hypothalamus signals the pituitary gland, which in turn stimulates the adrenal glands to release cortisol. And you may have heard me talking before about cortisol. This is the body's primary stress hormone. So alongside adrenaline, cortisol prepares your body for the fight or flight response. So your heart starts to increase, blood is directed to muscles, non-essential functions like digestion and reproduction temporarily slow down. These are all things that you don't need in a crisis. They start to slow down. So these functions are deemed to be non-essential, but of course, if they're triggered to slow down too often or to stop functioning too often, we can be in trouble. In the brain, stress primarily affects the amygdala, which is right in the middle of your brain, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala is responsible for emotional processing, becoming hyperactive and making us more vigilant, right? So it will tell us to be more alert, more vigilant. Great in a crisis. The hippocampus, which handles your memory and learning, will start to shrink under prolonged exposure to cortisol, impairing memory function. The prefrontal cortex, the center of executive functions like focus, planning, impulse control, also become less efficient. So again, impacting decision making and rational thinking. So all this is going on. If you stay in a stressed out situation all the time, stressed out mental state all the time, all this starts happening. And the nervous system reacts through both your sympathetic, which is your activating, and your parasympathetic, your calming branches. And under stress, the sympathetic nervous system is dominant, keeping the body in a heightened state of arousal. Over time, this leads to dysregulation, where the body remains on high alert despite there not being any external threats. Not surprisingly, persistent activation is linked to issues such as insomnia, anxiety, digestive disorders, and weakened immunity. So these are all physical effects of a stressed out brain. Stress doesn't just affect physical systems, it's deeply intertwined with productivity. Short-term or acute stress can actually enhance focus and creativity and problem solving because it sharpens our alertness and gives us this boost of increased energy. So you think of someone responding to a 999 call, a risk to life, This is often referred to as positive stress. So it's not always a bad thing. However, chronic stress, persistent, unrelenting pressure has the opposite effect. It impairs our concentration, it reduces cognitive flexibility, and it makes us lack motivation. Tasks take longer if we're in a chronic stress situation, errors increase, and our ability to prioritize and think strategically declines. The form of stress also matters. Psychological stress, such as relationship tensions or job insecurity, which I know some of you will be experiencing, can be just as harmful as physical threats and trigger exactly the same biological responses. Emotional stress often lingers longer and may go unnoticed, leading to a cognitive strain. Meanwhile, social stress, if you feel excluded or unsupported by your peers or your manager, this can affect your brain function and your mood regulation. Even anticipatory stress, which I like to call worry. If you're worried about future events, it can activate stress pathways in your brain and start to erode your productivity and your well-being. Understanding these dynamics allows us to approach stress not as an enemy, but as a signal, something that needs attention, management, and recovery. So in essence, stress is not inherently bad. It's useful in an emergency, very useful, but it becomes harmful when it's chronic, misunderstood, or ignored. When managed wisely, stress can be transformed into a catalyst for growth, focus, and productivity. So the question I've been considering in recent weeks in relation to stress is, are those who help and serve others, life's givers, likely to experience more stress and burnout than other people? Well, for a start, some facts are obvious. If most civilians experience 3 to 4 traumatic events in a lifetime, emergency service workers are likely to experience a higher number. A typical police officer may encounter between 400 and 600 traumatic events during their career. In addition to trauma exposure, there's other factors like shift work, stress, and resulting relationship problems that can further contribute to mental health challenges faced by emergency service personnel. For others, experiencing traumatic events through their work, even without being directly involved, can also contribute to their mental health challenges. You might have heard the term vicarious trauma. It's like trauma through something else. I know from policing, for example, call handlers and those working in the sexual exploitation of children areas are very likely to have symptoms caused by exposure to trauma, even though they're not directly involved themselves. You might not be a firefighter or a road traffic police officer, but maybe you're the family fixer, the shoulder to cry on, the carer, maybe you carry others, maybe you're the volunteer. I also want to look more generally at life's givers and stress. So we often hear that it's better to give than receive. It's a very noble idea, one that's deeply woven into the fabric of our communities and our culture. I think British people, for the British people listening, are one of the most generous charity givers, giving nations in the world, so we can be proud of that. Giving is praised in families, friendships, relationships, and at work. We honour those who give time, energy, kindness, and even material resources, whether that's through supporting a loved one, volunteering, or contributing to a cause. In understanding myself, I've had a good look at why I spent most of my life being a perpetual fundraiser. It became quite addictive for me. I found that I could never be not fundraising, and I realised that a lot had to do with the appreciation I got for doing it. So giving connects us to something bigger than ourselves, and research supports that there are many benefits: improved physical health, emotional well-being, and even spiritual growth. But let's look a little deeper. Whilst giving can be a deeply enriching act, there are also times when it comes from hidden issues, not necessarily from others, but from within ourselves. In these moments, the act of giving, though outwardly generous, may be driven by complex and less conscious motivations. And in these shadows, as things become a bit more nuanced and sometimes even harmful, there is a form of giving that comes from a place of low self-worth. I've definitely been on that journey where I have believed that I must earn love and acceptance by constantly doing things for others. I enjoy painting in my spare time. Some of you might know. I like to see myself as a bit of an artist. Actually, that's a bit of a downplay. My main education is in fine arts. I have painted all my life. However, I have always found it hard to sell my work, and I've usually either given it away or, more likely, I've sold it and given the money to charity. In fact, I've raised thousands for charity by painting pictures, which is so lovely, of course, but it also comes from a place where I couldn't imagine my paintings were worth someone buying them unless there was a noble cause attached to it. I'm much better now, but my own needs took a back seat because I was so intent on giving. Giving was a bit of a mask for me. Often the back seat was so far back that I was barely visible myself. There's a real cost to this. And giving becomes a way to avoid rejection or mask insecurity. The giver may feel truly seen for who they are, only for what they do. I know many who rightly and proudly identify with their job of work, for example. Their job is their identity. But just make sure you don't lose yourself in that identity. Because if you stop doing that job, for example, retirement or redundancy, you will need to rebuild and reframe who you are. So one particular stress in giving, as is with my case, is if your ability to give is either A, taken away from you, for example, feeling unable to serve a public due to a lack of resource, which is quite a common thing, or B, you don't feel valued, supported or appreciated, you're likely to become resentful at best and at worst prone to emotional exhaustion and burnout, which is something that I've experienced. Excuse me. So not all of you listening to this will be public sector workers, but given that 18% of the UK's population works in the public sector, it's interesting to see this sector continually experience higher stress levels compared to their private sector counterparts. In addition to experiencing tight budgets and unsupportive work cultures resulting in low morale, research tells us that public sector workers are more likely to be stressed because of the following reasons. Is this getting a bit depressing? I promise that we'll have some happy bits at the end, and I'll give you some tips on how to cope with stress, not just tell you how shit it is. Because there is good news. You can build your resilience. So here's the reasons why public sectors are more stressed. High workloads and long hours. I probably don't need to tell you this. Employees often face demanding workloads and long hours, particularly in areas like social services, healthcare and education. And it's definitely true of the care sector and in policing. Increased expectations from service users. So employees in the public sector often encounter real heightened expectations from the public. It may not fully understand the challenges faced by your organisation or its staff and may be very demanding. This kind of like, I pay your wages attitude. For example, I worked managing a team that responded to complaints from the public. Ever so occasionally, the public were grateful for our help. And that was like gold. when we got a thank you for helping them out with their complaint. But by and large, day in, day out, we dealt with angry people. And the organisation didn't really acknowledge the stress and the toll that might be taking on us. Another factor is frequent organisational changes and restructuring, which you often see in the public sector, can create uncertainty and stress for employees. The public sector is often subject to external reviews, performance targets, which create uncertainty and pressure for employees. Another factor in the public sector is that employees may feel a lack of control over their work and are limited in their ability to make decisions, which can further exacerbate stress. Feeling inadequately trained or skilled for a particular role can also contribute to stress and anxiety. And finally, workplace bullying and conflict. A study in Northern Ireland recently showed that a far higher proportion of employees in the public sector reported that they had been bullied or harassed at least once in the last year. Far more than employees in the public sector. And in fact, I was recently talking to someone from the NHS who confirmed that bullying and conflict were actually alive and well in that sector, sadly. So all these pressures can contribute to significant stress and burnout. They're not only experienced by the public sector. Those working in charities can experience them, carers, stay-at-home parents experience some of these things, especially not being valued. These are additional stress factors. So, have a drink. There is just water in here, I promise. So now I've made you all miserable. I want to quickly acknowledge the benefits of giving. When I felt particularly low once, a therapist recommended to me that I consider doing some voluntary work. The suggestion really made me smile. I think it was my overzealous volunteering that got me into the mental mess in the first place. But voluntary work and giving is good for you. That's why GPs are recommending it now. Why do we do it? Why do we give? Because authentic giving feels good. Authentic giving is light, it's free, it doesn't leave behind resentment or a mental tally of who owes what. It's the hug we offer without waiting for one in return. It's the time we give because it feels right. It's the meal you cook with love, not obligation. It's the thank you from a service user for the difference we know that we've made. It's why I dedicate my time to helping you guys. It's the warmth and the thrill I get from seeing people grow, build, and recover. Our authentic acts of giving, however small, have immense power. They build trust, deepen bonds, and replenish us rather than deplete us. So the stress occurs not because we're giving, but usually because of the environments we're operating in, the situation, and the people around us. So whatever you do, despite my doom and gloom, do not stop giving, but do look after yourself. Is that clear? So I have shared some insight into what stress is, and I think answered the question as to whether life's givers are more vulnerable to it. Yes, they are. So now for a bit more of a fun bit, some tips on some what I call R&R, resting and relaxing. So techniques like mindfulness, physical movement, breath work, and sleep hygiene can help rebalance the nervous system and support brain resilience. At work, creating psychological safety, fostering supportive environments, and encouraging open communication can also combat the negative effects of stress, making space for people to thrive. You may already know this at some level, but if you're struggling to apply any of this, then do get in touch. Because my work as a resilience guide and personal resilience coach can help a lot of people, and already is, to discover what they already know inside, but they can't find a meaningful way to bring this into their lives without guilt or self-sabotage. I know I've tried a lot of things which have all been beautiful and wonderful, like meditation and Reiki and Qigong and all these wonderful practices. I've sat in the forest and meditating. It's been lovely. But it wasn't until I burnt out that I realised that I needed to go a lot deeper than that. So the structured program that I've developed has provided a very safe space to really invest in your own resilience. But for now, here are a couple of tips. I know that meditation isn't an option for many of you, and I will be doing a masterclass for people who hate or can't meditate separately, because so many people have mentioned it to me. So how about this? A change of scenery. There's a lot to be said for changing the space you're in. So at work, hold meetings in a different room, visit a different place, walk a different route. If possible, get outside somewhere, look at the sky, look at nature. There's loads of evidence that connects access to the natural world with good mental health. In a recent study, the University of Miami found that daily variability in physical location is associated with increased positive brain effect, particularly in the hippocampus, which we already know is shrinking with our stress. So it's extremely sensitive to environmental novelty. When I was working in Iraq, going back nearly 20 years ago now, I was on a military base in the desert. I would regularly sneak outside and practice my Tai Chi next to the lake, all by myself. It was sort of against the rules, but I did it anyway because I knew I needed to fiercely build my resilience by being somewhere else other than either in my office or in my room, which was a converted freight container. And you'll be amazed at the impact of also, when you go and change your space, leave your phone behind even for half an hour and creating a bit of space around you. So that's my number one top tip, change of scenery. Number two, understand your mental health triggers. One of the best tips I picked up on a mental health first training was to understand and talk about mental health triggers with friends, family, and those you work with. Understand yourself, but help others to understand you as well. This will encourage you to disclose others to disclose their likely pressure points. So if you share your triggers, things that set you off, or things you don't like, or things that will likely make you cry or be frightened, if you share those things with family, friends and colleagues, then they will share too. If everyone is aware of the starting point, then you can see off any challenges that are likely to cause stress or triggers often before they arrive. And it's really important to understand that not everyone's the same. And remember, as already talked about, it's common in public sector work for team members to be triggered by not being able to help people. I certainly worked with someone who got most stressed when she couldn't do her job of work, which was to support the public. That was her trigger, and I think that's quite common. So know your triggers. Learn some basic grounding techniques. Again, I can feel those people who don't like meditation and the idea of grounding. If meditation isn't an option for you, just try a quick grounding intervention. So before you're about to take an important call, go into a stressful meeting, or do a presentation like this one, or a dangerous deployment. I don't think this is a dangerous deployment. Take 30 seconds to first root yourself to the ground. And you can imagine you're wearing big concrete boots, or that roots are growing from the soles of your feet into the earth below you. I use the root one. Lots of people like boots. So if you visualize that you're wearing concrete boots, you can either do this by standing or sitting still with your weight evenly balanced between both feet in a comfortable position, placed about the width of your hips apart. And once you're rooted and you're imagining either concrete boots or roots, once you're rooted or grounded, take 3 breaths. And on the in breath, count for 3 seconds. So that's quite a sharp in breath. And on the out breath, count for 6 seconds, 3 and 6. So you're in quite sharply and then out slower. Do it in your head. And just do those 3 breaths 3 times. So ground your feet, 3 breaths. It take you about 30 seconds. I used to use this technique between 999 calls when I was a call handler, police call handler a couple of years ago. And it really does work. So if I'd had a particularly griefy call, I knew my cortisol levels were up, I was feeling stressed, my little heart's beating fast. Just do the 3 breaths and the heavy boots or roots, and the result is a real sense of calm, control. And I would ask myself, are you ready to take the next griefy call? And it worked. So that's a good one. Basic grounding techniques. So we're at change of scenery, understanding your triggers, basic grounding techniques. Number 4, don't reward yourself with things that are bad for you. Now, this is going to be really unpopular, I'm afraid. This is in evidence everywhere. Night shift workers buy junk food and sweets to get them through. I've certainly seen it in policing. The amount of sweeties and energy drinks that are consumed by people on a night shift is phenomenal. Hospital staff celebrate achievements with cakes. I'm such a killjoy, aren't I? But this is an NHS where staff obesity is a real problem. The Nursing Times reported that 25% of Britain's nurses are obese. That's shocking in an organisation set to keep you healthy. Alcohol is still regularly given as gifts or rewards, and our psychology around alcohol is still that alcohol is a treat. There's huge mixed messages for our neural pathways, and ones that will not build resilience. A real treat, and I stress this, is something that's good for you. So treat yourself to a spa day or a massage, as I did recently, or just with some time to yourself. Treat yourself to a bath with candles. Treat yourself to a longer walk with the dog. Treat yourself to things that you like, but that are good for you. I'm sure there must be a few. But my biggest tip really is to begin with awareness. As I said, giving in itself is not inherently good or bad. And I know, we all know, that giving, providing support or care is not about being perfect. Very few of us give with a completely pure heart every time. We're all human. We get tired. We get needy. We have moments of insecurity. That's okay. It's good to look inside ourselves and ask ourselves, why are we giving? Do we have self-worth issues? Are we distracting ourselves? So many ignore past traumas and do not process sadness and difficulty. By reconnecting and rebuilding from your negative experiences, you not only free yourself, but you will have a positive impact on others too. And this is the type of work I'm helping people with. I am one of those people for sure who, if someone asks me, are you okay? I will very quickly answer, yeah, fine, and you? And then I'll ask a million questions about the person to deflect away from myself. It took me a while to understand just why I was doing that. Why was I always putting others before me? Just a little bit more aware of the why and the how you were giving. And most importantly, to say no when giving would come at a cost to your health, to our health. So to sum up, stress is a natural biological response, and when triggered naturally, it can help us overcome things. However, life's givers And we've looked a lot at public service, but you will identify with this if you are one of life's givers, a family fixer, a fundraiser, a volunteer. As a giver, you are more vulnerable to stress. There are ways you can help yourself and I can help you. I'm not suggesting you stop being a giver. Just be aware of your vulnerability and your own triggers. When giving becomes a bridge to authenticity and not a mask or a burden, and we give from a place of calm, resilience, it becomes a source of joy like no other and is not a drain on our spirit. So, speaking, today has been a drain on my spirit. It's my second masterclass of the day, so forgive me, I'm drawing out a little bit. I hope you found the masterclass useful. If anything, I hope it helps you feel seen and heard, and it's given you some insight to understand perhaps how you're feeling, and then you're not alone. If you haven't already, which you probably have if you're watching this, sign up to the Facebook group, The Resilience Experience. I am going to provide you with lots of free resources in that group. And if you'd like one-to-one support, or you would like to join the next 12-week part-time Unbreakable Path program, just drop me a line on Facebook via my website, which is carolinejane.com. I'm always happy to answer questions and I'm always happy to support you. And I know I'm not perfect myself yet, but resilience is my absolute passion. I'd be happy to help you. So that's the end of the masterclass today. I'm very happy to be sharing this on the Facebook group. If any of you have any comments, feel free to write a comment, or any questions, please feel free to ask them now. What I will do is I will download this video and share it on a group for anyone that missed it. Thank you for watching.